Thanks, Dan. I think this book, to begin with, it actually traces and analyzes the growth of Harare by looking at three distinct periods. That is one from 1890 to 1979, and secondly from 1980 to 1999, and thirdly from 2000 onwards. I will briefly explain why I focused on these three distinct phases. First is that if we look at from 1890 to 1979, we see that the successive city and national governments, they made essential investments, in particular on infrastructure in the city. And as a result of those investments, the city's economy boomed. However, when we see in terms of the planning philosophy, in terms of land management and development administration, finance, and the economy, racial segregation was key, was actually the enabling framework then. The result is that the growth of the city was concentrated on the European side of the city, which is the low density suburbs and the central business district. Secondly, if we look at the second period that I look at from 1980 to 1999, you would see that independence was a turning point for infrastructure was expanded, in particular in high density areas where most of the population live. For example, we're talking of areas like Tswara-Sekwa, Budiriro, Glenview, Glenor, amongst others. And the administration of the city was also integrated, with all races placed under a unified administration. Before that, there were town municipal councils for predominantly white areas, and there were also actually advisory boards in largely African areas. And the government and the city of Harare maintained actually a very strong planning framework, which was characterized by an anti-informal settlement policy. So as a result, Harare grew in an unprecedented way. It became well known as a well-planned African city. And also the national government and the city of Harare, pension funds and building societies, they financed the city's development. However, on the third aspect of the period that I look at, which is from 2000 onward, Harare actually transitioned in various ways. Its economy changed drastically as the city experienced extensive capital flight. However, the built environment expanded tremendous, and a fifth of the city's population also moved to peri-urban areas, which is Harare South in particular. Amidst this economic stress, we see that the city responded in various ways that enhanced its resilience. And also, ordinary people actually, they actually responded in many ways that also enhanced the city's resilience. So without formal jobs and without a constant supply of infrastructure services, Harare residents opted for various alternatives. And people in their capacities, in their individual capacity and also collective capacity, they did not despair. Instead, they promoted the city's development through financing urban planning and surveying, installing water and sewer infrastructure, constructing houses, and holding the city of Harare to account. At the same time, we also saw that private developers grew in strength, and they developed several medium and low density housing schemes. So in a nutshell, we would see that from 1890 up to 2020 or so, in about 13 decades, actually, Harare grew from a negligible population to nearly 2 million residents. And this growing population had diverse needs, which then compelled the city to plan and manage the infrastructure in particular ways. From a few isolated mud-thatched houses that we see in 1890 up to around 1897 or so, the city actually grew to about 300,000 residential properties, numerous suburban shopping centers, and a well-built, actually, a central business district. So in a nutshell, these are the key eras and in terms of the key developments that took place between 1890 up to now. And all this is clearly articulated in the book, 12 chapters.